What's going on? Peace to the family. You are now tuned in to G Consciousness Live. I know it's late night, but I definitely need to go in about some things that I experienced today with the brother Neter and also Polite. I am brother Polite. Um, man, I realized today that Netta and Polite rejects the kemetic teachings, their own kemetic teachings, as a matter of fact. I know y'all see them with the logos on their hats. Polite, Sonetta just as well. But they reject those teachings. And hopefully y'all get a chance to view the video that, or the conversation that we had today on Sonetta's channel concerning certain things. Um, Man, it was interesting. But we want to make sure that we go and finish. Well, you can get over there and go and finish the rest or the entirety of that. We get to see the footage when he put it out. It's kind of weird. But what I'm learning is they don't deal with the ancestors concerning Kemet to its totality because now you have to get off into a lot of spooky things. And so listening to Polite today, he basically tried to how can I say it? Advance Kemet on a level to where they're dealing with modern terms of what we see today. As far as he mentioned some things about the heart is a magnet or deals with probably electromagnetism, just all of those things that he mentioned today. But overall, um, without a shadow of a doubt, them brothers do not deal with Kemet at all. Them brothers is taking what they're learning today or what we classify to be certain things for science and trying to relate those things to the past. Now there is some things that definitely stem back and relate back to that, but just the overall and miss what they say that the Egyptians was representing, they miss all of that and then just go and establish something else. It's kind of ridiculous. So it's just a misrepresentation of overall Kemet, or what we call Egypt, so to speak, or the valleys of, the gnomes of Egypt, or the Nile Valley, the borderlines of what Kemet control, what they established politically, economically, and also religiously, because they was a religious people. They was very religious. I know y'all folks mad about that game tonight too, because Golden State got smashed. Let me see if my sound putting out though. Make sure my sound putting out. Out though. All right, cool. So my sound. Let's see. Make sure my sound putting out. All right, cool. So when we look at Kemet, right, what they established. Matter of fact, we can actually pull up some things because that's what we want to do. We want to screen share and just pull some things up to see if these guys are actually dealing with what Kemet was dealing with. And I don't think they are. I don't think Sonetta and them is doing that. I think they trying to establish their own thing, especially Polite, because his response to consciousness or conscience was ridiculous today. All the way ridiculous. And let's look at some things. All right, so let's look at this. Let's look at this scene right here. All right, so if y'all can look at my screen and see the image, let me make sure the image is showing properly. Look at my screen and all right, cool. All right, so let's look at this. This is Kemet, right? This is pre-dynasty Egypt. This is Norma, right? Um, Anybody that look up Norma, Norma is a fourth millennium king, around 3100 period, Nakata 3 period. And so this is Norma, and he stated, and him and his fathers, to establish or unite the kingdom of the north and the south. In other words, these different nomes of Egypt, right? Or different places to establish nomes of Egypt by going up and down the Nile, right? So you had the kingdom of Nut. It deals with gold, right? Kingdom of Nut, which was the followers of Seth. And the kingdom of Nut was built on, trade routes, just as well gold routes that lead from the Red Sea, onto the Nile Valley. You came up to the Red Sea, then you came across the eastern desert until you come to the west, and you come into the Nile Valley. These are trade routes. Newt was built, was a gold. There was a gold mine where they used to mine gold. Was said it the first even had a gold mine where he mined there. And so you deal with also Neckin. And these are places. These are the followers of Heru. So one of them is north, one of them is south. So you have Norman. He comes in, and these are even dealing with the contentions of Horus and Seth, because these are actually two people warring against each other. And it goes a long way, even with dealing with the homosexuality that we see there by the perverse minds that brought forth the contentions of Horus and Seth. These are two people trying to dominate each other or conquer each other. Followers of Seth, also followers of Heru, which which really is the Shemsu Hor, so to speak, or whatever. Now, when we deal with these two kingdoms, Norma came in, and he not only subjugated those people that was indigenous to those lands, and also to those different elements of minerals that was in those areas. He subjected those people that was up in the north and the delta just as well, who was Asiatics just as well. So you had Asiatics, and we know because we can look at the pottery, there were different anthropology that we see, and we see that these people were Asiatics. And so Norma went into the north and took over those things just as well. But before then, he conquered Neckin, Newt, right? And he made Neckin his capital, which is the falcon, the place of the falcon, or Heru or Horus. And we can see down in Edfu, we can actually see those different monuments that we see this in, when you start dealing with the southern part of Egypt and start dealing with Neckin and Edfu, and then you start going a little bit up more to the north, and you start dealing with Newt and the different areas that's up there, right? Now, he established those things by way of what we see his military conquest. If you can look on here, he has this priest out in the front of him, right here. It's Shemsu Har. These are the followers of Asar or Heru, basically, because Asar was the father of Heru. So these are the followers of them. And you can see you have the standards. These are the standards right here. These are standards that we see, and they bear the falcon, or Heru, or this could be behind him. Um, who is that? I think is it Sokar, I believe. Then you also have Wawet, which is the jackal. He is the leader of the opening of the way. Then you also have the placenta, so to speak, of the king, so to speak. And so, really, they say this might be a balled up piece of skin or something, hanging from a stick. But these are standards. So he bring in the priest, coming in, right? And so we know this whole conquest is something that's dealing with economics, because we see that there is the bread, and we see that there is also the rope right here, the bread and the rope. And we see also, they believe this is it could be possibly Norma's wife. I'm not sure. Most people say that's not a woman, but I think that is a woman. So there's different views on that. But we have also Norma himself with the dashret on, wearing the desert cap. Usually it's a red cap with a plume on it, a feather, right, whatever, so to speak. And it's the red cap, right? And so we see also he wears the bull's tail. He's the mighty bull. He's the strong bull. He comes from the womb of Hathor. So he's also considered to be the horse king. He's the horse king. And so he's the falcon king just as well. And so he comes out of the womb of Hathor, right? Or the house of Hathor, or, Huthar. He comes, Huthor. He comes from her womb. And so he's the bull king. He's the strong bull. He bears the bull tail because he's conquered the bull. Because back then, whatever animal you conquered, you got the strength of that animal into the kingdom. And you was looked at as a god, as a Neter, because you conquered that thing, right? You conquered it. So he is the king, and he is also looked at as the Nisut Bigi, or Biti, because he is the priestly king. He preserves the order, and he also preserves, he preserves that Mayat. That's his duty. That's his duty, and also the priest's duty, so to speak, too. Now, he bears the rule of a priest, too, because I don't know if he was considered the high priest, because he wore the southern cap. The southern cap is a white cap, which is also a priestly cap, just as well as being representing the southern cap. The dash red is the war cap, the desert cap, the red cap. That's where he got down and dirty at, because that's where the wars was. The wars was in the eastern desert, because due to the fact of you had the Semitic people, or Asiatics, or not even just the Asiatics, but people trying to come into the boundaries of this Nisut, right? That's what you had. So when you look at what they dealt with concerning religion in the afterlife, when you came to conquer somebody, they came exactly how the oppressors came. They came by way of religion. It's right here. He came by way of religion, economics, dealing with bread and ropes, and also he was a politician. He was a king. He dealt with something that was royalty. And behind, we know it's royalty because we see his name, the chisel and the cat, right? Catfish, which also means that he was a sailor. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. He comes from a family that sailed the seas, right? So when you look at it, you have these dead bodies here with the heads between the feet. Because if he come into these areas, whoever oppose him he has to conquer them. He has to take over them. Then you start dealing with the sandal bearer just behind him. What's in back of him is what you call the rosette above the flower pot. This is the sandal bearer. He has sandals in his hand, and he has a wash pot in his hand just as well, where he washes the feet of the king. Sandal bearers was also used looked at as possibly priests too, just as well. But he has a pot up here, and the pot has a flower coming out of it. Why? Because the flower represents, this is the rosette. They call this the rosette. The origin of the rosette comes from the east, Near East, in Susa or either Mesopotamia, during the culture of Uruk, where we see also the same signs of Inanna, the god or the goddess, that's in the Near East, where she may have sometimes 8 rose petals or sometimes 6 that you see here, sometimes possibly more, but it represents royalty. So we see that there are iconic things that are in this stela. In this palette. And what a palette is it is a cosmetic palette where they would take and dab in it and dab in it and use makeup or either paint, so to speak. Might have been lapis lazuli, which is only native to the land of Afghanistan, and I believe up in North Asia a little bit. I forgot the other state, the other country that it's in. But we see that Norma, he has the rosette, which means royalty. And the pot deals with the essence of this of the king. So we're dealing with the essence of the king. Now remember, the vessel is considered to be in kemet the ha, and that is the body. That is the vessel. So when you see this vessel, it means basically the essence of the king is in the vessel. And we see that the sandal bearer, he's bearing the shoes, so he is the servant of the king. He's the servant of the king. And also, he will bear the essence of somewhat of the king just as well, too. So we see that he has the rosette, right? Which means royalty. So he's dealing with royalty. So his job is to preserve Mayat. What's chaotic to him when he has the dasheret on is those that come from the desert, or those that are Asiatics that's coming into the boundaries that he's trying to protect. Because remember, it's dealing with economics due to the fact of people who have need of substance in order for them to survive. And so to obtain those substance and also to obtain those substance, there needs to be some type of confrontation or some type of contact when it comes to trading or when it comes to just in general domestication, so to speak. So he's protecting these boundaries or these borders to preserve himself and also those who are subject to him. This is what he does, right? But remember, these people came from the south. So if they came from the south, they had to move into the north and come in and take somebody else's territory. Because remember, it's survival of the fittest. So these are the very people to where Polight and Brother Neter is not teaching these things. The very people who they look to as the Nisut, as the royal priesthood, use the same tactics as the oppressors to come into the land and establish religion, economics, and politics. No different. and took the substance of the indigenous people that was in their lands. And what I mean by that is that if my name is LaRon Campbell, right? So to speak. Now, whatever is pertaining to me, I have boundaries. So Norma would have had to cross those boundaries to get what I got. So remember, you look at already to the west, these people were culturally set up in their different tribal areas, and they had boundaries. But when you look to the east, it's more so civilized, going up the Nile until you get up to the north, around the Mediterranean, where they traded with those that was up in the north in Europe and those that was in the Levant area. A civilization is built upon states of people. Contractors come in, they might, whatever they know to do, they might build those things. So this is what's going on here. So, yeah, Cleveland did get smashed. So, when you look at this and you demonstrate, the question is this: when you go and you look at, check out Neter's page and you look at the round table, you had Polight that was there, you had Israel Doctrine that was there, you had Lex Vortex, myself, and you also had Divine Ron Prospect. Now, my position is this, because we started off talking about consciousness. What is it? What does it mean to be conscious? Where do we find this at? You know, and I think that Polight dodged a lot of the information. I mean, just outright just dodged it. And he kept talking because he's a fast talker, to where it's like, man, answer some of these questions directly and stop fast talking. Because when you talk about the material world, right, and you also talk about consciousness or conscience, these are things that are immaterial, but they exist in the material world because the essence of you is in the Ha, which is the body or the vessel. But when you are detached from that Ha or that body or that house, that vessel, then are you still aware? Does the principles of order of my yacht still exist apart from the Ha, the vessel, or the body? Does it still exist? This is something that Polight failed to give the people tonight. He wants to demonstrate that the ancestors were saying that the mind is subject only to, or consciousness is subject to, the body as it exists in the body. So I asked him, what happens when there's separation from a distinct consciousness apart from the creator of what they call God? What happens when that separation, or what happens when you separate from that body? Because we all have something that's distinct about us apart from the creator. It's just like genetically. Even though you come from your mother and father and you share some genetic, some things that are genetically some genetics with them, you still have something that is distinct about you, yourself, genetically. You might still, well, I ain't gonna say might, you definitely do. So it's the same way in the spiritual world, or what we will call either the Ka, or when you start getting off into the body, the personality, because these are the things that that what we're talking about the aspects of existence when it comes to a Egyptian perspective on how they viewed the afterlife and how they viewed what consciousness was. They viewed things in duality, dualness. If order must be preserved in the natural world, then on the contrary, so is above, so is below. In the underworld or in the afterlife, order must be preserved just the same way. It's duality. So these brothers are not following the order. And remember, when we start getting off into Khepera, right? The dung beetle. Khepera was a beetle that we see that brought into existence, that was self-existent, but came into the material world and spoke the material world into existence. Right? And so before he formed those things was in a state of chaos. So you bring order unto the chaos. Where you see Ishfef at, there's Mayat. Because Mayat brings order to that which is chaotic. Neter listened to Polight and rejected what the Egyptians dealt with concerning the afterlife. They rejected it all the way. Because they looked at the world upside down, that the principles that we see now existed in the world. Matter of fact, when you did with the Per Emeru, which he talked about tonight, when they went into the Amduat or the afterlife, you see the same principles that existed in the natural world in the afterlife. The Real Black Atheist just posted something. I don't know what he posted. Albert caught red-handed. He uploaded a lot of his videos. Shout out to the Real Black Atheist. So and it should be what it should be. I thought of that Divine Ron Prospect debate as being divine prospect. Compromise. He's always compromising. He always dancing around on the Hebrew shuffle. I listen, to be honest, if I could have put money on Divine, I would have been broke because I was going for Divine. But it seemed like when you get away from the book, then your wisdom become corrupt. You know, we can prove the supernatural. Why do they try to stay away from it? You know, we can scientifically set people up and say, well, you say something come from nothing. That's what you say. Well, we know that when we look at the material world, we see that dark matter, dark energy brought into the existence that we see of the very material world that we see 5% of the material world that we see today. So that is something beyond of what we call nature, which is consistent of the materials that we see today. So something formed the very materials that we see today, information and consciousness. And with that consciousness, there's attached energy, eternal power, right? But we call this the Godhead. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning, right, which expresses time, God spoke, and when God spoke, images was made. We understand God by the Word because the Word is the image of God, the express image of God. You wouldn't know anything about God except the Word spoke and let you know who God and the character of God is, because when the Word speaks, it creates patterns and shapes and images. The Word put in action creates things. And when the Word speaks, We understand the very material world by language, by math, right? Even from a subatomic level. So in the beginning was the word, right? But the word was always there with God because the word is God. So the word became flesh. The word made the whole world materialize and then came into the world. The word became flesh. Right? So, I mean, this is simple. So when we look at Kemet, right? And you talk about the underworld and what these people was believing in. They came with their religion. They came with their economics. Came to deal with the economics, and also they was politicians. What they believed about the afterlife is something that Polight failed to give the people tonight. He wants to make consciousness solely attached to just the brain. But what about the things that exist outside of the material world? They form the material world. Because if consciousness only exists with the brain, then where is the origin of consciousness? Where does it come from? It has to come and materialize the brain to even embed consciousness in the brain. Therefore, consciousness was always there. And also, when consciousness brought forth different sequences of the world, whether if it's spiritual, which is also tangible, or whether if it's material, which is tangible, also a different type of substance, there still is something distinct. And we know there is a distinction there because we see that the mindset of people does not agree with each other because of this distinctness between us and how we think. So we must line back up with the creator. So when what the Egyptians viewed after the afterlife was the heart, right? Which is the Ib. The Ren, which is the name. Your name was to be carried on for eternally in the natural world until you get to the spiritual world, the afterlife. Your greatness must continue, whether through your seed or through over into the afterlife. The Ib is the heart. The heart was the soul. Why? Because it's the seat of your emotions. In other words, it burns. It's all your emotions, your feelings, your passions, your desires. This is the seat of your emotions. Your ka was considered the intellect or the spirit. Your ba, your personality. But sometimes the mind was even considered as the soul in different cultures just as well too. But it mainly, and what we deal with the mind consists of the spirit man, which is attached to the, hold on, my phone was hot, which is attached to the body and the soul. I'm sorry, I mean your mind is a spirit man, which is attached to the soul, housed in the body, or the ha, or the vessel. So then you also had the Aku. Who was the Aku? The Aku is the blessed dead. These are the people that experience to pass over unto the afterlife to speak for those that are in the natural world and preserve. And how do they speak for those that are in the natural world? They preserve order in the spiritual world, because remember, whatever happens in the spiritual world is manifested in the physical world. This is called the coming together of heaven and earth, the emerging of heaven and earth. And this is from a Egyptian perspective. I haven't even given you from a biblical perspective, because I'm going to show you in the Bible where it even states that the Egyptians knew of God but chose to do things otherwise and pervert the way of God, or the Creator, the Most High. Hold on for a minute. All right, so the order of Melchizedek. What's up, need to know? The order of Melchizedek. What about the order of Melchizedek? Okay, the order of Melchizedek, right? Now, here's the thing, because this is very important. The order of Melchizedek is an order that predates the order of the Levitical priesthood, and also also Abraham and themselves. Matter of fact, we know that the order of Melchizedek is higher than the order of the Levitical priesthood, due to the fact of, while Abraham paid tithes unto Melchizedek, the Levites was in the bosom of Abraham. So the order of Melchizedek is a priesthood that was established in the land of Canaan, and I believe the land of in the city of Salem, and he was a priest. And I believe that he experienced, and he's also I believe he comes from, I can't say, matter of fact, I can't even give account of his genealogy, but I know his genealogy is not accounted for in Israel. But he is a priest, and Abraham paid tithes unto him, and he is a priest in a city where the city has fallen, and he is still the priest there. And he goes forth to confront Abraham concerning his battle, and enlighten Abraham with some things. And it was so much more to that, but I'm not going to really speak on that. But in Abraham is something that's going to come forth, which is going to be a priest after the order of Melchizedek. So this is why the encounter took place between Abraham and also Melchizedek, because Abraham is going to bring forth a nation of priests just as well. And so Abraham has met, Melchizedek has met with Abraham to pass on this priesthood, basically, or to give him the blessings of this priesthood that he was going to bring on this holy nation. But, and so the area of where God chose to put his name at was Israel, or Jerusalem, and the city was being trampled down, and the borders of the original priesthood was corrupt. And so the kings had taken the position of the priest, or the priests had become the kings, when we start dealing with all the way back to the culture of Uruk, or the Uruk cultures in the East. And so when we get to the West, we see that the same thing is going on, where the kings, or the great house of the pharaohs, or even those that's in the Levant area, have taken the position of the priest, which is not so. But it has to be rightfully passed down by the priest. So the order of Melchizedek is passed down to Abraham. Abraham is not telling what they spoke about, but we know that there was something that was there. So therefore, the seed that was in him concerning the circumcision, he's able to take on his that position for Christ. He's able to take on that position because he bears the mark. He bears the mark. Just as everybody that come through the mark, which is the circumcision, which is the seal of the covenant, the token, because the token represents the 8th day as a sign. It's something scientific with that, but it's also a sign. The seed is a sign. And also the cutting of the foreskin is a sign. So we have those three things. So we have also blood. We have blood, the cutting of the foreskin or shedding of the foreskin to cut the covenant, because you always cut the covenant and blood is always shed. Then you also have the seed, because the circumcision is concerning the seed, and then the 8th day. Let's put it together now. You have the cutting of putting off the flesh or the deeds of the flesh, right? By way of shedding blood, by way of the seed passing through, right? Which is Christ. And also passing through, we know that he passed through because he was resurrected on the 8th day. So this is what it means. Shedding of blood, right? I mean, putting off the deeds of the flesh by conquering it, the ways in the flesh, overcoming the ways in the flesh, right? He establishing seed, because he is that seed to establish seed by the very methods of circumcision of the heart, because it's also symbolic of circumcision of the heart, and resurrected on the 8th day and giving you the seal or the token of the New Testament, which is the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God is the token of the New Testament, the sign of the New Testament. But the sign comes forth by the word, spirit, and also water. Spirit, spirit, blood, and water. Spirit, blood, and water. The word, the water is the word. The spirit is the power, right? And the blood representing shedding of blood to initiate the covenant. This is what this is dealing with. Circumcision. So that's what it boils down to. Yeah, it says he had no father. And Jeremiah Moore, to be honest, it might be Hamitic. It might be that priesthood of Melchizedek might be Hamitic. To be honest, to be for reals, it might be. I'm not sure on that. But I do know that the service of the priesthood was through the sons of Shem. I do know that, because we see that even the Japheth will dwell in the house of Shem, or in the name of Shem, because blessed is the God of Shem. So the priesthood will follow on Shem. Now remember, there was a priesthood, or there was priests before we even came into after the flood, because you had people doing priestly orders. The first account of the priestly order that we see would have been Cain and Abel acting as priests by way of sacrificing or offerings. Every ancient culture had a priest before the flood, because sacrifices was before the flood. The priest is the mediator between God and man. He's that mediator. He's even the mediator between the covenant. So the job of the priest is to go into the temple, receive revelation from God, or go behind the curtain and come out and establish establish a government or govern the people by way of the revelation of the interchange of information from the spiritual unto the physical world. That was the duties of the priest. Same thing in the Bible. You don't divine to no other God, but you divine to the God of Israel, who helps you to establish a nation as well as a government with laws, and to raise up a standard and march against the false ways and bring judgment on those that are on the earth who are not representing the true God. So Israel was a power of attorney for God, to represent God, who was in a far place, and to represent God on earth, heaven on earth, so to speak. Let earth be the Lord's prayer, so to speak. I just forgot it and it slipped my mind. Forgive me. But let earth be as it is in heaven, so to speak. You guys know the prayer. So that's possible. So the 8th day, this is it deals with sign as well. So getting back to the brother Polight, let's look at something real quick. Let's look at something. Let's look at something. And to be honest, I want to bring out something about this, because this right here is a motif, a Mesopotamian motif right here. And this is the cosmetic palette. This is where they would put the makeup at, or either paint at and dab in that. And this is a pretty big palette right here. This is a pretty big palette. But this motif is a Susa or Elam or Mesopotamian motif, because Susa or Elam is a little bit more to the east of Mesopotamia, but the Uruk culture still spread it from up north and between the two rivers, down south and over into Susa and Elam. So we have the Uruk culture, and during that time is where we find a lot of these motifs of the sauropod, of this lion / snake or just leopard or whatever, these different long neck mythological beasts. Now, if you see, you have these guys that are taming this beast, and these are intertwined beasts or intertwined powers, but they tame this beast. And so this is showing that Norma was able to tame something that was in the Nile Valley up in the north that consisted of Asiatic presence. He's taming that power because there was people that traded up. We know that there was trade going on during the Nakata 2 period in the fourth millennium between those in the Nile Valley and those over in Mesopotamia during the time of the Uruk culture. We know that it was because we see that there are different things that are mentioned and when you talk about the Nakata grave sites that are only native to certain lands that's over in the east, the Near East. So there's trade that's going on there. Somebody in my inbox, let me see what this is. That boy, Mr. Controversial, he done sold his soul to the devil, Michael Edwards. That boy, demonic as could be. See, when you get away from the book, you always encounter problems, and that's what Michael Edwards did. So he's coming to a state of reprobate. It seems. When you get away from that book, now he made a post to where I no longer believe in the New Testament, so to speak. So he doesn't deal with the New Testament anymore. They say he still deals with the Messiah. So, man, I wish him and Israel Doctor would never had that debate because now he done went farther back because he got beat up in front of the world. Hopefully he'll come back home. So, bottom line is that um, we see that Polight tries to escape away from what this text is saying concerning the afterlife and what we see. Let's look at all right. So as we can see, this is the afterlife. This is one of the scenes from the afterlife. I forgot what hall this is. The judgment hall seems to be, but we can see that the heart right here, the ib. It's on the balance scale, right? Because when you talk about mayat, it means order, it means balance, and it has some other principles that it means too. Just as well too. Truth, and you have the feather. So your heart has to equal this. It has to equal the feather, and if it shows to be heavier than the feather, then you are given to this croc right here, or a moot, and he takes you to, so to speak, the lake of fire. And this is Tahuti. He is the Athoth. Tahuti is the, so to speak, the recorder, the scribe. He's recording. He's a writer. He's supposed to be the writer that brought forth writing to Kemet, to the Nile Valley. And he's recording this, right? So then you have whoever it is that's standing in front of it that's being judged, that's coming into this hall. And then they say these are the judges up here. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't know who this is up here. I have to get some more details from the brothers and see who that is up there. But there's a lot of things that's on this thing. It shows that this is the Amduat. This is the afterlife. So not only in the afterlife is order preserved, or you still see the principles of Mayat here, but you see people that's being judged. And so you are a judge yourself because you are the Asar. You become the Asar or the Wasir, and you go into the hall of judgment, but you must judge yourself. And if you don't judge yourself correctly, then you will be judged by Asar, or you will be given over to Amut. Right? And so once you do get past this stage and things come to where they're supposed to be. I'm sorry, put this back here. Why is it not coming out clear? I don't know why it's not coming. Let's pull up this right here. I don't know if this is probably just a drawing right here. I don't know if this is the actual what's called. I know. Let's see. And so you this is a different what's called. I forgot what papyrus this one is. But anyways, so you come to, let's pull up this one right here, matter of fact. This is the bigger one. So once you pass this stage, and I believe this is Ani right here, you become, he gets past this, right? He passes this hall, and then he gets to where, and this is the Anubis, I believe, or this might be Anubis, or he is the guardian, or he is the leader of the way, I believe, to this as well. I could be wrong on that, but he leads you, right? And he has the Ankh in his hand. Now, most people say the Ankh is the sign of the womb. I think I beg to differ with that. I think the Ankh, well, it plays a part in that to life, because I think the Ankh, what it was is it's a reed. It is a reed, a tied reed in a knot. And the reed represents the backbone of Asar, right? And Asar is the agriculture god. And here, this is Asar right here. This is why he's green. He's also the judge of the underworld. But he has the what is that? The shepherd staff in his hand, and also well, I forgot what they call, but he has them both in his hands. But he is an agriculture god as well as the judge of in the Amduat. But this Ankh of life is also called a Dejed, right? Because they used to use the reeds in time and knots to form their houses, especially over in the east, in the Near East. And so they were Dejed pillars because they was the backbone of the house. And so it also deals with agriculture, because now that you were able to become stationary and build houses, you also dealt with agriculture. So it played a great role in raw materials. And so the Ankh was life because it was the backbone of life. Most people say it's the womb, and he does have something to do with birth, but because of mainly, so it has different meanings, but I think that it's much more because there is this matter of fact. Let me see if I can find this book. When you talk about the Jed pillars, where's that book? Because I got a book that I was reading on. Hold on for a minute. What is that book called? Michael's so upset, y'all. That brother went in there and got beat up, and he just really upset about it. Brother, you can always come back home. You just keep going back and forth. You didn't try to change the definition of what perfect is in the Bible. You didn't went to the Greek and the Hebrew, and you still misinterpreting wrong. You're just all the way off. Sonetta, you set that boy up for failure, man. You had that boy over here hide behind that Hebrew medallion on his necklace, on his neck. Hide behind that star like Moloch. That boy was tripping. You got that boy on there making all the videos on that West Coast looking like CB4 or looking like NWA. But we're going to call him NWO because that boy linked up with the New World Order. That boy over there, he looked foolish. But anyways, yeah, man, I don't know why when he started following up behind Sonetta, he started feeling he was a rapper. He started wearing the shades, the necklaces. I guess he was trying to be like his big brother, Zion Lex. He started wearing the hats. And I'm just like, look at this brother, man. This brother going in. This brother then got this rapper money. He don't know how to act. He getting that AdSense. That boy getting that AdSense. That boy getting that, what is it? $100 a day or whatever, however you make it. That's why he got to keep making those videos. He got to go after Polight and go after Sonetta and go after everybody else when he first started, because that was the way he eat. He wasn't, nobody wanted to play that piano no more. His hands getting wore out. Yeah, so he got a long way to go. But let me bring out this book real quick and get up off of Michael, man, because that brother in need of some prayer. Okay, yeah. So you want to get the hold on, let it pull up. It's called The Handbook of Egyptian Mythology. Let me see. Let me get that author for you. It's by Geraldine Pinch. You want to get that book, and let's look at it, what it says. Matter of fact, let me get the page for you, what it says about the Jed pillars and about the Ankh. Let me get that page for you. Because reason what made me trace it back is because when I got to looking at Asur and I got to looking at his epitaph and what it deals with, what is some of his because there's a god that ruled over Elderu, which was an ancient city which predates the Nile Valley, as far as the pharaohs, the great house, and they have a king there, and his name was Asar, and so his symbol is a throne. And so he's the king. If you look at Elderu is it also in the cuneiform means the mighty place, but it's called Nun Ki. So when you even deal with this Nun Ki or Nun, or when you look at how Elderu was set up, it was on a primordial mound surrounded by waters. So the concept of surrounded by the waters of Nun, or the mighty place, or the Abzu, comes from the east, and it comes into the Nile Valley, Nun. So when the first time you start seeing literature of Nun, there's always already literature concerning the mighty place. And when you look at the structure of the mighty place, you will see that the Egyptians even built their temples after that place, after that prototype A architect temple. That's why when you start looking at the primordial mound of the pylon that's down at Edfu, or the pylon of the pylon of Isis, and you start looking at its primordial mounds or mountains where the sun come up through, and you enter into that temple, into the place of the holies of holies, and you divine, you get rituals done, and this is Kemet. This is Kemet because they had an Ark of the Covenant too in Kemet. The Ark of the Covenant is the mercy seat. Maybe your ancestor died or something like that, and once he died, you set up some type of ark and you know, some type of covenant, and you made that covenant with your God, and that was the symbol that you made, and you divined to that symbol. I think the ark that they had was a chest with angels just as well too, and also they had a solar boat, a boat that they had a boat just as well. So it's kind of weird, but for the most part, let's look at this and get that page for you. 127. Let's go to 127. So in that book is 127, and I'm gonna jump there and go there real quick. Let me jump there. I wish I could turn this a little bit faster. This book go in too. All right, where is it? All right, is this it right here? Yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, it's 127. Let me read this real quick. It says that the Djed was one of the most common Egyptian symbols. It was used in a hieroglyphic script to write a word a word that means stability, right? And when you look at it, when you look at stability, it also relates to the stability of when you start looking at the different housings of the reed hut housings that they used to make, which was the backbone of the houses, or the arches that they would use, which was bundle reeds. So let's look at it. What it says. It says It says immutability. The original Djed may have been a pillar made from reeds or sheaves of corn, but in that time it came to be thought of as the backbone of the murdered god Osiris, or Osar, right? Why is that? And we're going to deal with that. Now remember, it says sheaves of corn or reeds or pillars. Now, anytime you enter into a temple of Kemet, you're going to have in the pylons, especially down in Edfu, pillars. They call it the hyperstyle columns. They look like columns, but when you look at close up on them, they're actually reeds or bundles of reeds, or either flowers or some type of bundles or reeds or sheaves that's in a knot, that's in bundles. And so the Judea pillar also represents the Ankh, and this is what this person's going to deal with too. Let's get to it. It says the Judea was sometimes personified as a separate god known as the August Djed. Let's jump to the next page. Hold on. Some early uses of the Djed symbol imply that it could be thought of as a pillar holding the sky above the earth. Once a year, the reigning king joined in a ceremony at Memphis to raise a tall Djed column by pulling on ropes. Ptah, the chief god of Memphis, carried a scepter that combines the Djed pillar, or combines the Djed with an Ankh, the symbol of life, stability, and power, were the three qualities that God traditionally bestowed on kings. Watch this. Raising the Djed column was also part of the Hebsed Jubilee Festival, through which a aging king's power was renewed. On some occasions, the raising of the Djed was preceded by a mock combat between people representing the opposing forces of order and chaos. So you can read a little bit more on this when it gets on talking about the other gods, for as so-called Horus, Ptah, and also Asar or Osiris or Wazir. So, and you can look at this, but I'm just really just talking about mainly the certain things that it meant in Egypt. I haven't even went to the Near East yet, because they almost, you can tell which one predates who, and which one is earlier, because the J was also linked to Nun Ki, because when the primordial mound rose up, the sun rose up off of the mound, but around the mound was the reeds and water. So Nun, or the waters of Nun, surrounded by the waters of Nun, right, which was the mighty place, you had these reeds, bundles of reeds. So to even enter into the holy place, you have to pass the backbone of Asur, or Asar, or the bundles of reeds. You have to pass the columns, or the hyperstyle columns, to even get to the holy place, which gets you into the Aket. The Aket is the primordial mounds on which the sun sets every day. So you have the horizon and the set. That's another story though. But anyway, so um this is what these people was dealing with. This is what they was dealing with. And I think tonight that these brothers did not represent um what should have been represented concerning when you talk about the afterlife, when you talk about consciousness, and and they misrepresented it tonight. These brothers, shout out to Sonetta. I appreciate the brother for letting me come on, but I just think that um, Polight has to be put on trial for the information that he's putting out. This not correct. It's not correct. And so either you're gonna line up or you're not gonna line up. You know, um, and Sonetta was with him tonight, but I just think that Polight was wrong. Now, with that being said, let me bring out what I brought out concerning when you talk about law. I don't know what psychopath atheist is talking about, but he said that they don't worship any gods. It was strictly about culture. That's it. I mean, your culture is concerning your God. Most of these guys had priests, they sacrificed. And when you look at the Aku, which was the blessed dead, they took the position of those Nisu that was on the other side. Because that's what we see. We see that they took that position of look at Osiris here. He's sitting here, he has the twin plumes on his head, right? He has a priestly cap on, which is the southern cap. Why doesn't he have on a dash red? Because he takes the priestly order now. Why doesn't he have on a dash red the war cap? Because he's taking the priestly order now. And so even when you talk about the opening of the mouth ceremony, why? Because this is something that the dead have to go through to speak for those that are in the natural world while they're in the afterlife. Because remember, these things are cohesive. You must, these guys still brought offerings to the dead or to their ancestors, where you would see to where, you know, things was carried, so to speak, you know, unto the afterlife from the natural world. So when you went into these temples, right? I'm not talking about the afterlife now, but just going into the temple in general, you were to divine to your deity. And your deity is immaterial, but at the same time, he gives you instructions concerning the material world, because he knows how the material world works, because he is basically the orchestrator, so to speak, or knows somewhat of the immaterial, which causes the material world to function like it does. So he can see some of these things, how it works when it comes to nature, how things move. So the things that we can't see, your deity, who you deified to, was to help you see those things. You know, things that we were blind to. So like in our text, it says the word is a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. So the word of God, which even the Egyptians would say the words of God or the words of the Netchas, the word of God was in our Bible is a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. So by the word is how we see. It's how we're able to see, as Paul said, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and high places. So if we understand how to war in the spiritual realm, then we can defeat and conquer things in the physical realm. So even in the natural world, this is a mental thing. Mental is immaterial. Your mind is immaterial. So if you don't conquer your thoughts, if you don't know how to war mentally, then the things that we see that happens in the material world will conquer you or overtake you. If you don't conquer stress, then it causes a problem with your physical body. Stress is a mind condition. So as a man thinks, so is he. So the heart is a physical thing, but also is a soulish thing, or a spiritual thing just as well too. This is why the Bible says, out of the heart proceedeth forth wicked things. Now we know that out of the natural heart, it's not nothing proceeding forth like that. But the spiritual heart, which is weighed, those things come up out of the spiritual heart. So even when you start dealing with certain, when you come into the holy place, or when you come into the place of the blessed dead, you cannot pass even the very columns that you see right here to the holy place, where this is the veil. But before you pass into this place, which is also looked at on other monuments as the Serek. The Serek, the facade always bears the name of the king. When you start looking at different monuments in Egypt, where you're gonna have this building or this Serek that bears the name of that king, or in general just a building or a coffin. Even when you start dealing with the sarcophagus, you're gonna have to where you have a niche facade or a false door, so to speak, that's gonna be there that leads the way. So it's always gonna be something like this. Look at this. These are the hypostyle columns. You can't pass this. You have to pass this to enter into the holy place. Even when you start looking at what's before this God or this judge. Why is this agriculture God the God? Why is he considered the backbone of life? Because he's the substance for the natural world. So he's looked at as in the natural world as an agriculture god, as his epithet when you start dealing with Asar, which is also the epithet of the Near East god Asar, which is the one of the kings of Eldaru, Eridu. I'm sorry, Eridu. So he's the backbone of life. He causes agriculture causes stability. Agriculture causes people not to move around no more, but have stability and be stable. So these are the things that these brothers was neglecting to even bring out tonight. Yeah, so that's it, man. That's so I just wanted to bring out some of those things. Now, concerning order, order is something. Well, we'll talk about that another time. We'll talk about that. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to talk with the brother Polite, man, concerning these things. Um, and we build and we go from there because I think that the brother he is always trying to orchestrate stuff or critique stuff, and I really want to kind of take the brother by surprise. That way he won't have no type of getting away to try to get away like he do or try to scramble, but answer these questions. You know, I seen what he tried to do today, but then he tried to clean it up. He was double talking himself. His brother tried to say that the mind or the essence of that person or the conscience of that person is only at work when it's attached to the body, when it's in. But the from an Egyptian aspect, when you start dealing with the ha, the ba, the ka, the ib, when you start dealing with the ran, the aku, the aket, you know, these things cannot be denied. You know, the heart being weighed in the afterlife, so is above, so is below. These are duality of principles that exist above and below when you're in the natural world, and also the same principles exist in the spiritual world. These things must be preserved in the natural and the spiritual world to preserve order, because we function as natural material beings and also as spiritual beings. So therefore both must be kept up to par for all free moral agents, so that order may be preserved. If things are not functioning right in the spiritual world, then it's going to be manifested in the natural world. If things are not functioning right in the natural world, then it can also cause an uproar within the spiritual world. Why? Because we all are objects, right, within a system. And so we are a unit. But if these objects are not acting right within this system, then we don't act as a system nor a unit. So therefore, there's a cause of effect and there's chaos. So who brings the order and who preserves order according to the existence or aspects of Egyptian existence? How you lay your land out, how you structure your land, is laid out after your theology or your mythology. You preserve Mayat in order and balance by conquering the things of nature to just as well too. If nature brings chaos, You are to preserve order, mayat, or balance by conquering what's chaotic. But eventually, that only it lasts for so long. If man is being chaotic, you conquer it. If a flood come in, how do you conquer a flood? Build canals. You know, so you yourself have the ability to judge yourself, and if you don't judge yourself, you will be judged by the highest judge. And if you make it past a moot, then you become a judge with the judge, and you position yourself. And this is what the Bible actually say too. You become a judge. Know ye not that the saints shall judge the world? So there are some similarities there, but there is some perverseness there within the Egyptian mythology. And also the literal aspects of the Egyptian mythology. We cannot demythologize or demythologize, however you say it, myths. You can't take all the things about of it, because there are some literal things that is there that need to be conveyed and learned just as well. So with that, I just want to say peace and blessings to the family out there. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, don't think that I didn't left Christianity, because I haven't. I'm just showing a perspective of what these guys say that they know, but they don't know. I'm not saying that they don't know anything, but stop deceiving the people with the rhetoric that you're bringing that Egypt was not even dealing with. So that's just bottom line. So with that being said, peace and blessings. Make sure y'all share this video. If y'all can get this over to Sinetta, or either the what's the brother's name? Polight. Get this over to them brothers, man. And go make sure y'all check out the conversation we had. I couldn't really talk that much because I was trying to get it in fast, and because I know they don't give you that much time. Plus, I kept getting the echo or feedback. It was bad reception. But for the most part, shout out to Sinetta for allowing me to come over there. I will be getting up with Sinetta probably this a little bit more later this summertime to do some things with him, as well as these other brothers. Peace and blessings.